Hello everyone, Elijah here. I'll welcome you all to another Epic 7 video, and today is my account review video where I'll be going over the units that I use, their builds, their stats, all that good stuff for the Conquest season. Now, I actually was going to do a last minute, the final push in RTA or whatnot, but I 100% forgot about when the season was supposed to end, and I didn't actually get to do that. But we did finish in Champion. I think that's right, is Champion, Emperor, whatever. We finished in the top 5,000 or so, which it's not the top 1,000 or the top um 100 like Legend or Emperor or anything like that, but as somebody who's been playing the game for a little bit over a year, I would say I'm pretty impressed. Maybe next season we actually can get to Emperor or something like that. And I also want to go over these units right here, just because these are definitely my pride and joy, I guess you can say. These are probably my most picked units throughout the entire RTA season. I used them the most, they carried me the most through the most matches, and they just did, I mean, APOC Ravi, that's pretty obvious, but when Aros got his buffs and Diene got her buffs, right, they really did shine for my drafting, especially being a mid-tier speed, not super fast, not super slow kind of gamer. So yeah, let's go ahead and go through our units. We're just going to go in order of CP, and I'll just go over their stats, their builds, how I use them, when I use them, and all of that good stuff. So to start things off, we have Edward Elric, who I didn't really use that much till the end of the season. Obviously, he wasn't released until the very end of the season, and he was essentially just a cleave counter. I did try to use him in standard drafts or, as a DPS and standard or aggro drafts. Did not do enough damage for me. Probably has to do with a Mola issue because he's not fully Mola'd. So he definitely was just a tanky unit to deal with cleave units because his, being able to counterattack when being debuffed, really good unit to bring into Priera or Rans and things like that. Then we have Hwayoung. Now, even though Hwayoung has been, probably one of the more controversial units of this season, especially now that she's getting nerfed, I didn't really use her that much. I didn't really have much of an issue with dealing with her, and I didn't really have much of a use of using her. I did use her in some cases if I felt as though it was necessary, but typically speaking, she was either banned or it just wasn't optimal for me to draft this unit, and I just didn't, right? She just didn't fit in my playstyle by drafting. It's probably because I didn't really have the tools necessary to pair well with her. I didn't have my Amelia built, because my Amelia, she was built on and off throughout the season, but I never really gave my Amelia her the best, speed gear. So, it was kind of on and off of whether or not I would use Hwayoung, but I mean, when I did use her, she did work. Don't get me wrong, this unit is very strong, but yeah, I'm excited to see, or I'm curious to see how she will feel after her nerfs, and just seeing how that's going to work out. Now, Ravi I did not draft at all. I actually changed her build after she got her buffs, and I think I drafted her once, maybe. I'm not for sure. I'm not really confident in her build, which is why I never really drafted her, but she was geared in case there was a heavy green team or earth team that I had to deal with, just in case. If there's a Valencia, but I'm starting to see less and less of Valencias, I don't know, but if I was ever had to deal with something like that, then, my Ravi was built just in case. Now, Adventurer Ross being one of my more commonly used units, he's a great first pick unit. If you don't really know what to pick, he's an amazing knight, especially with the amount of single target DPSs in this game, with his passive of giving a barrier when getting to the backline unit. It has clutched up a lot of matches for me. These are his stats. I could lower his HP to make him faster, but I just like seeing 20k HP. I don't know why, I just really enjoy seeing that number as the amount of HP that he has, but I don't know. It depends. I might change his build to be faster, probably 230 speed, maybe even faster than that if I could get him to be that faster, but we'll have to see. Summertime Iseria. I probably drafted once, and she had a completely different build. She was a lot faster, actually. It had a lot more damage. I can actually show what that looked like. A lot faster. Her build was more like this. Maybe. I think she actually just had this ring. But yeah, she was a lot faster. She had like 15 more speed. I just never really had a use for her. I don't cleave. I honestly think I could just give her gear to somebody else entirely. I just don't use this unit really at all. And I've never really had kind of like the mindset of wanting to use this unit. Just not my playstyle. I just don't have enough setup for her. Mercedes. Mercedes was definitely more so a Guild War unit, but she was used to counter cleave. Occasionally, I have her on a like no speed counter set build, so if she does counter in Magic for Friends, she will nuke a team of squishies. That was kind of like her purpose. To sit there, hopefully counter attack in Magic for Friends and be super annoying. Then we have Politis. In the beginning of the season, she was on a tankier, more effectiveness build, and I just changed her to a DPS build because how I was drafting her, I needed her to serve as somewhat as a DPS, and the Abyssal Crown and tankiness and effectiveness just wasn't really working out too well for me, especially given the fact that if she wasn't stunning, then she didn't really have a purpose, right? And it didn't really work out so well. So I changed her to a more DPS build so that I can actually use her as a DPS and have, units protect her versus her just being, annoying, a nuisance of being a stun bot. Carrot, drafted occasionally. When Landy's was used towards the beginning of the season, you saw a lot of Landy's, and then you don't really see Landy as much anymore. I guess that's just because there's so many counters I can deal with Landy. I would use Carrot, but after that, as less and less Landy's got used, I didn't really have a need to use my Carrot, so she kind of just on whatever gear. Her gear definitely got nerfed throughout the season, but this is what she looks like. Rem, I've never drafted once. This is how she's built for Guild Wars. For like my defense team, to just be annoying and a little bit tanky, a little bit of damage, no speed. That's essentially what my Rem is like. I would never really draft her in RTA. I think I have probably like 1 or 2 times and lost. I don't really think she has the stats necessary to be a good unit for me to draft, but she does scare people, right? She is kind of like serve as a must ban in some drafts. So we'll skip over Lua because she was not usable in the season. I actually did play a few games with this unit before they put her on the global ban list. I did play a few games with her. She had a slower build and more tankier, but I'm slowly working towards trying to get an effectiveness ring. But that will be a unit for the next RTA season that I'm excited to use. Then we have SSB. Rarely used, but I did use her a couple times. I think there is actually videos of me using her. She didn't really work out too well, but I think this build is ideally the build I would want for her, just better gear, right? Wanting to make her a little bit more bulkier and maintain kind of like the same somewhat stat line, but have more bulk. Just needs better gear for that, so that's just something I have to work on in the future. But aside from that, I mean, she is a must-ban unit in some last pick situation, so that's kind of what she does to serve her purpose to be a must-ban. Now, Ida is who I got for my selective in the anniversary, the Epic 7 anniversary. I selected Ida because I feel like I needed her in my draft. Like, she was a really good aggro unit to have, especially paired with Cecillia's or other, openers, right? She just served a really good purpose for me, and I'm glad I got this unit for my selector. She did close out and did really well towards the end of the season, and I really like this unit. She really, really impressed me this season, so I'm really excited about that. Now we have my Diene, who I used religiously, I would say, in the beginning of the season to the middle of the season, and then towards the end I kind of stopped because I had to keep dealing with so many cleavers and so many people that were like tanking down that I had to just play aggressive. So I didn't, and since she isn't on like an aggressive like opener build, she's on a more tankier, ER, you know, mid-range speed build. She's definitely somebody that I use to deal with Apocalypse Ravi because that 50-50 of not critting can mess up a lot of APOCs, you know what I mean? But this is Cecillia, her build, her stats, and all of that good stuff. Then we have Rimuru, who is not built well. I actually don't use it. He doesn't even have... He used to have... I forgot what artifact he used to have, but I don't really draft this unit. He's definitely a unit that I use to scare other people, because Rimuru is scary in a lot of drafts, but definitely somebody that I don't want to actually go through because his build is not good. I want to change his build to be like a tankier 20k HP Rimuru with like no damage just to be a counter cleave unit, because with enough buffs, right, he will do like 10k damage. Like he can nuke a squishy like Cidd or Cidd or something like that, like even without any damage, you know what I mean? So I definitely want him to have a build like that, but that'll be something that's a work in progress. Senya surprisingly did very well this season. I think after she got her buff, she really went like a little bit over the top. There were so many different matches that I had where I would just shut down a team and provoke them, and it was like amazing. Just watching Senya just do her thing. She's a lot slower, so I do have to pair her with somebody that can either boost her up or a cleanser so that she isn't, you know, have to deal with unbuffable or anything like that, because she's on a slower, takier build, and she is on the greater attack EE. I'm missing 1% of HP, but it is what it is. I didn't really feel like continuing to try to roll to get the 14% or the max roll and things like that. And I also paired her a lot with Diene because they work well together with the anti-crit buff. So we have Cidd. Now Cidd I build later on in the season when I was trying to play more aggressive, and yes, I only have him at A imprint because this game refused to give me 4 stars units. Like I don't know what to do about it. I just can't get 4 stars like Cidd to be able to triple S my Cidd. So yeah, there were definitely a lot of matches where I kind of, you know, this 3 speed would have probably made a difference to my team in going first, but it is what it is. This is his build. He took gear from my Cidd, who is no longer geared. I used to have my Cidd geared, but then I decided Cidd was just a better option for me. He's on Portrait just for more damage and all that stuff, but I could put him on Wind Rider. I might change him to Wind Rider, but it just depends. I just have to see how much damage. There are times where I feel like Portrait gives me the damage necessary to kill whoever I need to kill, so I don't know. But maybe Wind Rider might be better. Violet, he's just, you know, Violet, annoying menace of a unit. Definitely a last pick unit to counter heavy ice teams. I don't have any other reason to use him outside of that, but he was drafted as a counter unit, and that's about it. Don't really draft him that often, but, you know, he serves his purpose to deal with some cleave teams and things like that. Landy actually used to have a lot better gear, but I changed her. I actually don't use her in RTA anymore, like at all. This is like her, what is it, Banshee build. I use her on my Banshee team. I used to use her a lot in RTA. Her build was, I guess I could probably show you what her build looked like when I was using her in RTA. And it was essentially to serve the purpose of just being somebody to sit in stealth. She used to have Guiding Light, but I don't have her on that artifact anymore because I had to use it for somebody else. But she probably had this. She was on Immunity and Speed. I was like trying to think about what it was. And I think Faithless Lidica has her ring and necklace wherever it is. Let's see, crit damage. There we go. Faithless has his stuff. Yeah, that was more so her build, and then she was on Guiding Light. So that's what she looked like back then when I did use her in RTA, but I don't use her anymore. It's really hard to draft Landy unless you're using like a 270 speed, you know, speed Landy type of build to be a bridge for your other units. And because I wasn't going to use her for that, I just decided to opt to her being a PvE unit. That if I ever really needed to draft her, she still could be drafted, but I guess I would have to hope that it would be like in an aggro draft where I just kind of cleave the team and she's like a last pick, kind of like the scare. Like my other units I use to scare people, Landy would also serve that purpose, kind of like a must-ban unit. Then we have Roana. She has whatever gear. I mean, Roana just does what she does. I don't think I ever drafted her at RTA this season, but I mean, you don't really need much to make her useful. I wish she had higher ER. Like, I probably would, if I were to actually sit down and really give her good gear, I would probably have the same, defense HP, speed's not really that important, and try to get her to be like 150 ER or close to that as possible. And, that'll be kind of like her stats that I would go for. But aside from that, this is kind of whatever. It is what it is. This Roana, she will do her job, right? If there's a lot of dual attacks, counter attacks, things like that, she will do her job. Sharun, she is missing a ring because I used this unit actually one time in RTA, and I did actually win the match, but I never used her again. So I honestly am probably going to get rid of her gear. She is just a very hard unit to use. There's so many cleansers in the game, it's just very hard to use this unit. I think her kit is unique and pretty cool, but again, very, very hard unit to use, and I don't use her. So I'm gonna uncheck mark her just so I don't ever think that she's draftable because she's missing a ring and I don't know where that ring is. Where are we? We are on Lillias. Great unit. She was faster, but I had to, spread out my speed gear elsewhere. Yeah, Lillias. I don't really know what else to say. I have her on this artifact because I really like the idea of giving an already tanky unit a random defense buff or an immunity, or the continuous healing is also really good. This is a really, really good artifact. Probably one of the better free artifacts we ever gotten from an event. Love this. And yeah, this is my Lillias. She did her thing. I didn't start drafting her until the end of the season where I had Ida, because I had units to pair with Lillias. That was my initial issue in the beginning of the season, is that I didn't really have that many aggro units to pair with Lillias. I didn't have my Amelia built, I didn't really have just like the tools necessary to really make Lillias shine. Even though you can use her in a standard, more slower draft, I just prefer this unit to be used in a more aggro sense. Belian, she's on injury set, injury immunity. She's kind of like on whatever gear. She's really just there to be annoying. I didn't really draft this unit as much. This unit is probably always banned. I think there's not a moment that this unit isn't banned. Whenever I was playing, nobody likes Belian. Nobody likes Belian at all. This unit is always banned. I don't like to draft this unit, which is why she doesn't really have good gear. All of her gear pieces are free-to-play pieces because it's just kind of whatever. You don't really need much to make this unit be useful because her passive is just, the fact that she exists on the field, messes up a lot of teams. So, it's not really somebody that I really worry too much about, but yeah, she's kind of always banned on my part. Tempest Surin, I decided to re-gear her and give her this artifact, but I have never had a chance to use her. I've never been in a cleave situation where it would make sense to use her. Since Commander Pavel was released, there are so many units that can do 2 hits in certain cleave drafts with Commander Pavel, and because of that, it made it so that I couldn't really draft Surin really, because it just wouldn't work out because of Commander Pavel. Speaking of Commander Pavel, here he is. I drafted him in his release, right? And I force drafted him in a lot of situations, and he worked out well. He is on speed set. I know. I should put him on destruction set, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. But I just don't have the destruction gear to make him have 5k attack. But I do have the speed gear to make him have 5k attack. So that's why I opted for this build, and we have him on Dux Noxus. So yeah, he does his job. If I actually get him through the draft and have the units to set up for him, he will nuke. He will do his job for sure. But it's a matter of getting him there. Most people just brand this unit if they see it, especially if they are a slower turn 2 tankier team. Now, my Faithless Lidica used to have Guiding Light, but again, I've given my Guiding Light to my Lua. That's who has it currently. I only have one. But yeah, I used to have her on a Guiding Light. She's more of a DPS build, so she does do damage. And now she's kind of just a aggro choice. So if I'm in a situation where I know I will take the turn, and I know that Faithless will get her S2, S3 combo off, I will still draft her, because even in a situation where she's not able to hide behind Guiding Light, she can hide behind Skill Nullifier. So in a more aggro, aggressive, cleave type situation, and I know that I will get the first turn, and I will not have to worry about her getting sniped out or anything like that by like an Acid or Cidd, then I will use her for drafting purposes. But yeah, this is her build. Watcher Schuri, I never use this unit in R2A. I actually only use them in Arena, but if I ever needed a speed imprint, if I ever was going to cleave, I guess I could use them for that, but again, I don't really play cleave. It's not my playstyle. I'm really bad at it. I don't have my Rand built, and I don't want to have build my Rand. Then we have Angel of Light, who used to have a plus 30 Taga Hells, but then I gave it to Ida, so now she just has this. She typically gets banned. I have a 0% run rate with using this unit, at least for this season. Earlier seasons, I used to use her a lot, and she used to work out well, but I just can't use this unit. I don't know. She either has to be super, super fast, right, like faster than Diene, or she has to be slower than a Mediator Kawerik, right? So she was initially built to deal with countering Mediator Kaweriks and things like that, but I don't really see Mediators that much, right? People started to play more aggressive and more cleave, and because of that, you aren't going to see a lot of Mediator Kaweriks and those kinds of drafts if they're playing aggressive. So yeah, I didn't really use this unit as much. I did use to pair with Diene a lot because you don't want this unit to be picked into Diene. But other than that, I kind of just use her as she's just there. She has gear if I need to use her, but I don't really use her. Sage, Baal, and Sezan, counter cleave unit. Anytime I drafted him, he just got banned. So I guess he did his job by being annoying, by scaring people, essentially, I guess. People didn't want to play against it, so they just ban it. Aside from that, his gear is kind of whatever. I tried to get a little bit of everything. Some defense, some HP, some speed, some effectiveness, some effect resistance. I probably should put him on that one guild artifact if I really want to go for a more ER build, but he kind of has a little bit of everything, you know? I didn't really know if I wanted to build him to be like fast with high effectiveness, or kind of like mid-speed range with high ER. I didn't really know what I wanted, because, you know, he's kind of just all over the place. But yeah, this is his build. Solitaria, I would say this is actually another really good unit for me. I drafted this unit a lot. I used to have her on Fairy Tale Nightmare. What is it? It's this artifact. I used to have her on this artifact because she did do a little bit of damage, right? In some situations, but I didn't use it often. But that is kind of just what I did. And then I'm still waiting to get an effectiveness ring that's like 17 speed, because then her stat line would be perfect for me, right? 270 speed is like what I want from her, and everything would be like ideal, right? Build wise. But yeah, Solitarian, I changed her build to be more of an annoying stun unit, and she does her job well. She just stuns. That's the thing. She's a very good control unit, I think, especially dealing with Rimuru. Desert Jewel Basar, who was like my selective ML summon back in when they had that in like July, June, something like that. This was actually the unit that I went for after his buffs. I think he really like shined, like he really pushed to the top when it comes to being relevant and all those kind of things. Love this unit. love Basar. Really wish they would give Green Basar a buff or something to make him relevant again, because I would have both of those units built 100%. But yeah, he does his job, especially dealing with Para, especially dealing with, you know, just anybody, honestly. He really serves as a really good CR pusher if you're not even going to use him as a way to get rid of barriers. He still serves a good purpose. I have him on this artifact just for the little extra boost of ER. I really wish he had 200 ER flat, but I just don't have the gear to make him fast enough to also then still have 200 ER. Still working on that, but we're getting there. Moon Bunny Dominiel, I did use her sometimes, but not often. But she'll be 250 speed and, you know, RTA, but she's really just to deal with Lillias if I ever needed to draft her to deal with Lillias. If I wanted to have like a turn 2 aggro like draft, I guess you would say, then I guess Moon Bunny is kind of like what I would opt to use. She's on Doctor's Bag to cleanse the attack down. But yeah, aside from that, I don't really use this unit. I guess it's more of a Guild War unit, if anything, but I don't really think she's fast enough for Guild Wars or really for RTA, because most people use her as like a speed opener for RTA, but it is what it is. Now, Apocalypse Ravi, who I think is the most broken unit in this game. I actually really like the skin, but yeah, most definitely most broken unit for sure, 1000%. No ands if buts about that. This unit is so annoying. And the fact that she just works in everything is crazy. If I'm thinking of getting cleave, I just pick APOC Ravi. If I think they're going aggressive, I could just pick APOC Ravi. If I think they're just, you know, whatever they're doing, I could just pick APOC Ravi, and 9 times out of 10, I will just win, because APOC Ravi will take so much hits and not die, right, because of her passive and all this other stuff, and then she just nukes somebody with her S3 and brings back somebody in my team. And that's just APOC Ravi for you, right? She doesn't have 100% crit, so there are many times where she has griefed me and not crit, but I do like this stat line. Excuse me. I do like the stat line, so I like this. I like where her HP is, I like where her defense is, her speed. Crit damage could be higher, but I do like this build for her. And she's on Proof of Valor because, again, I don't really like banning Hwayoung, so if they pick Hwayoung, I know that Hwayoung is not going to one-shot my APOC Ravi, right? I just had to adapt to Hwayoung being picked, and just picking Proof of Valor was my way of dealing with that. Inferno Khawazu, I built towards the end of the season. I don't really draft him. I did use him like once, and I think there is an RTA match of me using him when I lost that match, but yeah, or there's actually 2 matches. One where I won and one where I lost, but aside from that, he's just a counter pick unit, right? If you see an opportunity to use him, right, he can either be a must ban for the enemy team, which is really good to have. Mediator Kawerik, who I love this unit, but I just don't like playing super slow. I didn't have the tools or units necessary to pair with him, right? I don't own Archdemon Mercedes. If I owned Archdemon Mercedes, I think I would actually have played super slow, super tanky, but I don't have, you know, that unit. That's like the DPS you really need for that kind of draft. I didn't have that type of unit, so I kind of just, you know, tank down. I rarely use this unit. You know, he doesn't really fit my drafting typically. I typically play more aggressive, and if I do play slower, he's not really the unit that I need for that slower draft. But great cleanser, and he is geared if I ever do need to use him, which he was 250 speed. Need like 3 more speed would be nice, but he's on an effectiveness build. I used to actually use him to deal with Arias, who would be, you know, have some ER, but not like an extreme amount of ER. He typically could strip their counter buffs and things like that. Straze is not built for anything good at all. He's literally got Hellcutter. It's not a good unit with this build. He used to have really good gear and like a super fast build, right? But then I just was like, nah, I don't really care to have Straze built like that. So he's typically a must-ban unit, right? I pick him last if I think that they need to ban him. Then we have Fallen Cecillia, another really great knight. DJB did make it a little hard for her. I actually realized, I hope I didn't, oopsie. There we go. I hope there wasn't any RTA matches where I, didn't have her on her HP imprint. Anyway, really good unit, really good knight. Love this unit. Drafted a lot towards cleave. If I'm getting cleave, I'm probably drafting this unit 9 times out of 10, especially single target cleaves. If you're dealing with people who are drafting Cidd, things like that, Fallen Cecilia's barrier will make it very hard for them to kill your, tanks or whoever you're using against an anti-cleave draft, right? In a lot of situations, it's kind of like a must ban because they can't really deal with her barriers plus the damage mitigation that she provides. Hassel, something that I built literally a couple days ago. I drafted her actually once in RTA. Lost that. Probably was definitely troll drafting her. Love this unit, love her design. More so of a Guild War unit though. Troublemaker Crozet. When it comes to countering cleave, I prefer to use Fallen Cecillia, but typically speaking, I will draft 2 knights anyway whenever I'm countering cleave teams. So I'll draft like Troublemaker and FCC, FCC A-Roz, A-Roz Troublemaker, whatever the case may be, right? I will draft like 2 knights because it just like, it makes it so that they either have to deal with the fact that there are 2 tanky units that are going to be hard to kill, or have to deal with the fact that you are going to have to deal with one of the knights, right? You have to ban one and deal with the other, and either way, whichever one you have to deal with is going to be annoying to deal with. So that's kind of what I used to pick Troublemaker with. I would never like pick him solo. I would just pick him paired with another knight to kind of make it so that they have to pick which knight do you want to deal with type of vibes. Arbiter Vildred, don't draft this unit at all because I just don't think, especially with Cidd being very meta, Cidd can just, kill him and then kill him again, right? It's really hard to draft Vildred because the type of cleaves that are set up nowadays have skill nullifiers, have to deal with Cidds that have, grants extra turns, people that grants extra turns, Politises that could just slow burn, kill Vildred. There's a lot of different, things. So my Vildred is typically used for PvE and just clearing through, auto battling and stuff like that. I could put him on a counter, slower, tankier build, but I just don't have the gear to do so. But maybe one day I'll do that. Closer Charles, I actually built him because I really like the idea of having another bridge unit. I wish he was a little bit faster. He has 4k attack because he is on a attack percent necklace because I just don't have, I don't have a crit damage necklace that's fast enough, but he still does damage, don't get me wrong. He may not have much crit damage, but he still does, he's not really there to do a lot of damage. He's there to kind of be a little bit of an annoying unit to have to deal with, and, he's just on the field, right? He's a CR pusher. If he doesn't get counterattacked to death, he does do well, and I really like this unit. And then he kind of served for a lot of my aggro drafts, especially when I was using Commander Pavel back when I was using him when he was released. He was a really good unit into that. Then we have Remnant Violet, who I think is such a frustrating unit. But when I did use him, he did work sometimes, but most of the times he really didn't. With his buffs that are incoming, I think he'll be a lot more usable, especially due to the fact that the issue that I had with him is that he will get 5 stacks and people will just ignore him and wait to kill him last, and then, they kill him last and they hit him and then he just dies. So I think with his new buff where he'll be able to do his little focus even when even when he attacks, it will help out a lot. It'll make him like a really good unit to use, actually. And then his soul burn for an extra turn. If I do have the souls for it, then that'll actually be really good as well. Operator Sigrid. Guild War unit. Don't use this for RTA at all, but she's just has on some gear, some random gear pieces for Guild Wars. Then my Specter Tenebria, who is probably my still favorite unit. She's gone through so many different builds. Had her on lifesteal, had her on, you know, a slower, a higher speed build, had her on a little bit of everything, right? Specter Tenebria is like that one unit that will never, it's just timeless. Like, she'll never really have much of an issue. The only thing you have to do is change her build, right? She's such a flexible unit. You can do so many different builds with her, whether that be destruction, whether that be speed, whether that be lifesteal, whether that be unity, whether that be 3 separate sets like pin, unity, and crit, right? That's also another thing, right? There's just a lot of different things you can do with Specter Tenebria and building her. And I really enjoy this unit. She's a lot of fun. And that concludes everything for my account review. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, a lot of my units are not necessarily the most optimal build for them, but they're build and speed tune in a way that makes sense for how I drafted and things like that, right? I didn't really need a 300 speed Diene because I wasn't ever going to play like that, you know what I mean? So I have her built in a way that makes sense for my draft and my playstyle. So I guess my word of advice for anybody who's getting into RTA, don't worry about not being the fastest person or the tankiest person or whatever. Just build your units in a way that makes sense for you and your playstyle and drafting and things like that. But yeah, that concludes everything for this video. I hope you all enjoy. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.